guys, how are you? So I want to talk about what happened in the press briefing last night with Kayleigh McEnany. She again, it was her against the press, and just the circus that has become the press briefings and the grandstanding and the sad state of journalism right now. But we'll look at all of that. But first, I want to talk about another woman who I very much look up to and appreciate. That is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She was a previous White House secretary for Donald Trump, and if you remember, she got completely railed in the media. They went after everything. They went after her looks. They went after her character. They went after her family, her kids, her motherhood. They attacked her from every way. I watched an interview with her and Ben Shapiro last night. She's been doing a press tour. She has a book coming out, and a lot of it talks about her interactions with President Trump and her relationship with President Trump. And that's a lot about what she talked about in the interview with Ben Shapiro. She also talked about how every day in that press briefing, it was basically her against the press, and we're still seeing that today with Kayleigh McEnany. And as a woman, you know, Kayleigh and Sarah are both just incredibly smart, incredibly poised, successful women who are also mothers, and it is an absolute shame how, especially, you know, again, woman to woman, it's a shame how the women on the left just completely rail them all the time. In my opinion, they should be on the cover of every single magazine, and they should be held up as role models for young girls, but they're not, which I find to be quite a shame. The same with like Kimberly Klacik or a lot of other conservative women that I follow. And I actually think for women in this country, for young women in this country, it's a shame. I think it's a huge shame. We should all know about Kayleigh. I mean, how prepared is she every time she comes to those press briefings? It's impressive. I have no idea how she does it. And she does it while having a baby. So I think that's pretty impressive. And I think it's really sad the way that these women get treated in the media. And I think it's sad for young women more than anyone. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about what happened in the press briefing last night. I'll play you a little clip of it. We'll kind of clip it out and do little by little. We'll have a little fun.
I'd like to ask you for a definitive and declarative statement without ambiguity or deflection. As the person who speaks for the president, does the president denounce white supremacism and groups that espouse it in all their forms?
This has been answered yesterday by the president himself, the day before by the president himself on the debate stage. The president was asked this. He said, sure, 3 times. Yesterday, he was point blank asked, do you denounce white supremacy? And he said, I've always denounced any form of that. I can go back and read for you in August 2019, in one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. In August of 2017, racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups. I have an entire list of these quotes that I can go through with you. He has condemned white supremacy more than any president in modern history.
This is such a waste of time, in my opinion. President Trump has condemned white supremacy, neo-Nazis, the KKK. He's even trying to designate the KKK as a domestic terrorist organization. No one else has done that before. I'll play you, but he's probably done it more than any president in the history because he's been accused of it so many times. He's had to. And it's like you have to just repeat yourself all the time, and it's never enough for these people. I'm going to play you a clip of the first one is a conference that President Trump gave right after that incident in Charlottesville that was brought up during the debates. And then I believe the second one is during his presidential candidacy.
The Department of Justice has opened a civil rights investigation into the deadly car attack that killed 1 innocent American and wounded 20 others. To anyone who acted criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And as I have said many times before, no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws. We all salute the same great flag. And we are all made by the same Almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
Another topic. Paul Ryan this week said, quote, if a person wants to be the nominee of the Republican Party, there can be no evasion and no games. They must reject any group or cause that is built on bigotry. He was talking about you.
But I've rejected. How many times do I have to reject? I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. From the time I'm 5 years old, I rejected them. I put it on Twitter last week. How many times? You know, it's an amazing thing with Twitter. I have 6 million, more than 6 million, and I have another 6 million with Facebook. I have like 13 or almost 14 million with Instagram. When I put out a minor message, everybody picks it up. Donald Trump just tweeted something very unimportant. Let me just explain. When I put out that I reject KKK and David Duke, nobody picks it up.
Now, I don't know about you, but that sounded pretty definitive. I don't know how many times he has to say it. It's like it's never, ever good enough. Nothing that he says, nothing that he does will ever be good enough. Look at what he says there, and also look at his policies, his historic criminal justice reform, all-time low unemployment, Asian, Hispanic, Black, just as honorable mention, lowest unemployment for women in 65 years, all the work that he's doing in the Middle East. His daughter is Jewish, his son-in-law is Jewish, putting the U.S. Embassy back in Israel. It's like, you look at his policies, you look at what he says, where is the evidence that this man is a white supremacist? Okay, he told the Proud Boys to stand down. There is still no evidence that the Proud Boys are white supremacists. I don't agree with everything they do. That is up for debate. But to say that these people are white supremacists without having any actual evidence, and even themselves say that they denounce white supremacists and they disassociate themselves with things like that, none of it matters. None of it's good enough. But let's watch a little bit more of the press briefing.
To clear it up this morning, can you, naming it, make a declarative statement that you denounce, that the president denounces?
I just did. Having a storyline and a narrative.
I'm just asking you to put this to rest.
I just did.
Thank you. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security say that racially motivated violent extremism is one of the deadliest threats that we face in the U.S. Does this White House agree with that assessment, and what is it doing to combat this threat?
The president has done quite a bit to combat this threat. First of all, last week, he also, in addition to saying he wants to prosecute the KKK as domestic terrorists, he said that lynching should be a national hate crime. Again, I think there's no stronger signal that you can send than advocating for the execution of a white supremacist the first time there's been a federal execution in 17 years. He's been unmistakable.
Is different than actually doing it.
He's continually condemned it, and it is really...
The record on this, to go to John's question, is mixed. He has condemned it, he's equivocated at times, he said he didn't want to acknowledge it or address it. His record is very mixed on this issue.
His record is not mixed in the slightest. And when you go back in history, you can see that
history right here.
When you go back in history, you can see that Jesse Jackson has praised the president as someone who served underserved communities. This president, with Mar-a-Lago, it was the first Palm Beach club open to African Americans and Jews. And in fact,
his record is mixed. He has not been consistent on the issue of white supremacy. So I'm asking you, what has this White House done to combat what the FBI says is one of the deadliest threats in this country?
We're not having a debate on a cable news network.
You're
right now,
saying that he condemns it. I have his record right here. It's
you need to let me finish.
His record is mixed.
It's quite funny that the media goes haywire about interrupting in debates and then chooses to pursue that very same tactic themselves. This is a White House briefing. You ask a question and you give me time to answer.
So in the first part of that clip, do you see what he's doing? And this is something I recently just learned. He's trying to get Kayleigh McEnany. He's saying, no, can you, right now, condemn that? When Kayleigh McEnany is in that press room, her job is to relay what the president's doing in his words and what's going on with him. Her job is not to give her opinion. The president of the United States was elected, not the press secretary. The press secretary is not elected. They are appointed. The people did not elect them. Their job is to tell you what's going on with the president, not to give their opinion. And I bring that up. It's really interesting because in the interview I was watching with Sarah Huckabee Sanders last night, she said they would try to do this to her all the time. They would try to get her opinion on the president and try to get her to condemn things that the president was doing. And she said, that is not my job. My job is to speak for the president. I was not elected by the people. The president was elected by the people. And you also see the very end where they completely talk over Kayleigh. And this is also something Sarah talked about. The state of journalism has become, and the press briefings have become this grandstanding, this, these journalists trying to get a viral moment and trying to have a gotcha moment with the press secretary. But again, I don't know how they do this job. I had a hard time even watching that. I was getting so angry. These people, you can show them all kinds of proof. Nothing is good enough. One of my favorite memes is Donald Trump could jump into the ocean and save a child from a shark attack. And the next day, the headline would read, Donald Trump is starving the sharks. And that sounds insane, but you and I, anyone that looks beyond the surface, anyone that pays attention to what's actually going on, it happens every single day. That's not far from the truth. Let me know your thoughts on that. You guys have a great day. Bye.